On Thursday night, Bukayo Saka broke yet another record. He became the highest scoring Englishman to play for Arsenal. 13 goals now for England whilst playing for Arsenal, beating Cliff Bastin's record. And it made me reflect on what a wonderful player we have generated from our academy. Hail End, born and bred, Bukayo Saka. So today's episode is all about celebrating the man who has given us so much hope over the last years. This is a Bukayo Saka Special here at Arsenal Unfiltered. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage with me, your host Mark. We are still in an international break, everyone. It is still the suffering, and of course we have one in November as well. It boggles the mind. So I hope you are surviving this break better than I am, because I get so bored during the international breaks. I really dislike them. If you're a regular listener, you will know that I find them so frustrating, especially these September, October, November ones, which just seem to come back to back. I mean, we play Sunderland on the 8th of November, and then we will have a full international break again, and won't see Arsenal until the 23rd of November for our North London derby against Tottenham. So it's very frustrating, but luckily we do have players who are playing international break football that we can keep an eye on and cover and think about. And one player in particular, as you heard at the start, who has excelled over this international break is Bukayo Saka, who scored an absolute wonder goal against Wales. If you've seen the highlights, you really you wonder what Wales are thinking there, letting him go free at that part of the box. It's his danger zone. It's his favourite place to be, and it got me thinking because, like I said in the intro, he became the highest scoring Arsenal player for England, so 13 goals. He recently reached 100 goals and assists in the Premier League during 200 appearances, so a goal contribution every other game, which, when you consider he got into the team when we were really, really poor, that's not bad. It's not a bad record at all. And it got me thinking, I want to talk about him a little bit more, because I think with all the excitement and all the signings that we've had, we've just normalised him a little bit, right? And we're so happy that we've got wonderful players all over the pitch, and we're looking at Eze, and we're looking at Zubamendi and Gyökeres, maybe even Martin Odegaard for a little bit there before he got injured again, and thinking about all these superstars, I think we've almost gone a little bit blind to how good Bukayo Saka is in our team. And of course he is the vice captain of the club now, so it's been a magical journey for him. I've never really done a kind of deep dive into a player like this before, or a kind of celebration episode, so this is something new. But if you do enjoy this episode and you enjoyed any of the previous episodes, make sure you hit follow, because I'm going to keep bringing you content over the international breaks, and of course all those key episodes, match previews, instant reactions and match reviews as well. So make sure you hit follow and you'll get all of those straight to you. Where I want to start with this episode is actually a kind of tinge of nostalgia for me, because if you have been here since the beginning, maybe not even since the beginning, but you may have gone back and listened to a few older episodes, Arsenal Unfiltered is about to turn 1. We turn 1 on Monday, which feels weird because this is something I just started because I wanted to talk about Arsenal. I really, really love the club, and the first ever episode came out on the 13th of October 2024. It's the 11th of October 2025 today, so this might be the last episode I do before we turn 1. But my first full episode was a 15-minute episode. I'm sure the audio quality was terrible. I'm sure I didn't really know what to say or how to do intros and stuff like that, but it was titled "How Do Arsenal Play Without Bukayo Saka?" And interestingly, it was all about a slight hamstring strain he got whilst on England duty versus Greece. So, October international break, England duty, Bukayo Saka, it all comes back round again. And I was talking about how do we line up without him. Of course, we have seen way more of that since that episode. We have played without him a lot. He has been injured a lot, and we saw the kind of difficulty we had trying to play without him. It was a little bit painful not to have your main guy not to have the guy you build your attack around. And I just think that injury for Bukayo Saka highlighted how much and how far he's come from that boy who broke through. Now, I forgot this, but he actually played in a game away against, I think, Victoria Pleasant. It was a Europa League game. And I want to go back to that time just quickly, because I used to hate the Europa League. I really did. It was a competition I didn't want us to be in. So every game felt like something that was a chore, and really only until we got towards the quarterfinals, semi-finals, did I think these were games worth playing. Not to be disrespectful to the competition, but because I'd grown up with so much of Arsenal in the Champions League, and some of my favourite games were Arsenal in the Champions League. Arsenal versus AC Milan, Arsenal versus Real Madrid. My all-time favourite Arsenal goal is that Henry goal against Real Madrid, because of what it meant, because how it stamped us on the worldwide stage, and you don't get that in the Europa League. But one thing you do get is the opportunity to blood players like Bukayo Saka, and the Europa League was massive for his development. He scored his first goal in the Europa League against Frankfurt. Very good finish, if I remember rightly. And he actually has a really good record in the Europa League for Arsenal. It's something that I hadn't really clocked onto, but in 25 matches played, he scored 5 goals and got 8 assists. Now remember, that might not be blow your socks off stuff now with the Bukayo Saka that we know, but that was when he was sort of 17, 18, 19 we were playing in the Europa League. It's thanks to him and his efforts, and well, not just him, but the team's efforts, we now play in the Champions League, and his record at that level is even better. 17 goals and assists in 19 matches played, including one of my favourite Bukayo Saka goals, again, against Real Madrid. A really, really brilliant chip in the game last year. So we've got to thank the Europa League a little bit and that Unai Emery era. And I think one thing that Unai Emery did really, really well is recognise the strength of Bukayo Saka. But of course, he came through at left back, and as so many players do, he found a gap in the team, which wasn't necessarily his strongest place, his place to play, his place where he grew up playing football, but it was a gap where he could make his mark. And we saw him at left wing back in early kind of Arteta systems with the 3 at the back. I think actually in Arteta's very first lineup, he played left back in a 4-2-3-1 against Bournemouth. So we've seen Bukayo really work hard in a defensive position. But he found his opportunity at left back, and that was how he got into the team. And I think it really is quite a testament to the player he is, because whilst Bukayo Saka has all the flair, the goal scoring attributes, he is our star man, our number 7. He is probably one of the top 2 wingers that we've ever had at the club already, and he's only 24. I think that's an incredible thing to be able to say. I can't think of a right winger who is of a higher standard than Bukayo Saka. You can look at Robert Pires and say that Robert Pires still has that number 1 kind of wide player spot, but I'm not sure you can put anyone else but Bukayo Saka in spot number 2. And I'm sure Arsenal fans of maybe a younger pedigree than me would argue that Bukayo Saka is the best winger we have ever had. We've had some great wingers, Overmars, Ljungberg, players like that who have been really, really good for us and have had wonderful careers with Arsenal and beyond. But in terms of their contributions at Arsenal, I'm really not sure you can look past Bukayo Saka on that right-hand side. So, yeah, I think his development really is a testament to the player and the person he is, because like I say, he came in at left back. He came in those horrible Europa League games that we didn't really want to play, and he showed up and he impressed, and he just kept working on his game. And that's one thing I want to talk about now. How Bukayo Saka's game has grown from those early days is something magical. I remember watching him in the early days and thinking, I wish he would go onto his right foot a little bit more. And all of a sudden, he turned up one summer and he started scoring goals. After one summer, he started scoring goals with his right foot. And we see it all the time now. That kind of, it's not quite a trademark finish, but if he can't get the ball working on the inside and get inside of the fullback, he loves to go down the line and lift the ball high up into the net with his right foot. He's done it a couple of times against Leeds. We've seen him do it. I think he scored one against Everton in a similar way. It became a little trademark of his, and suddenly we realised Bukayo Saka could go both ways. Then we saw the kind of trend of doubling up on him, tripling up on him, kicking him, being very, very physical. And I think for a season or two there, it was a little bit like, he seems to have been found out, and bang, again, he came back 1 year, and it was like, hang on, this, part of it's him growing up, of course, but it seemed like this guy is all of a sudden a much more physical presence on the pitch. He looks bigger, he looks wider, he'd been in the gym, and all of a sudden, they couldn't muscle him off the ball. I think as well, he's improved a lot in the air. He doesn't score many goals aerially, but I think that was a way that teams could kind of nullify his threat, force the ball into Bukayo Saka to be from distance, over the top, by cutting off the passing lanes. That's how people started to manage Bukayo Saka. Don't let it get to his feet. And now we can play that big switch out to him. And he takes it down every single time. He didn't have that in his locker when he first came into the team, and he does now. And I think, we like to talk about Bukayo Saka as he is now, but I don't think we ever sit back and really truly reflect on the journey that he's been on. Of course, he has faced challenges that he should never have had to face on that journey. The racist abuse he got after missing the penalty in that final for England against Italy, and I must say this now, it's still one thing that really, really annoys me. He got all of that abuse, and that is just outright wrong. It is one of the worst things that I think has happened in English football, that final, including the build-up to it, the kind of the violence on the way into the stadium, and then the fallout for him, Jadon Sancho and Marcus Rashford, absolutely terrible. And it's cited so much, it's brought up so much, just in discourse nowadays. And when you see Bukayo Saka step up to take a penalty, you still hear some commentators like to reference it, and I don't know why they flash back to such a terrible time. I don't think they ever do that for Harry Kane, who also missed a penalty in a really crucial game for England against France, of course. It's just something that it really frustrates me that Bukayo Saka, because he's a player of colour, I feel people note it down and reference it a lot more. He had to deal with all of that and still deals with a lot of that. Of course, he missed a really crucial penalty for Arsenal again as well. I think it was in the West Ham game that we drew 2-2. He missed a penalty in that game to put us at 3-0. It was a really, really difficult moment in that title run-in as well. So he's not played without adversity. This is a guy who has come through a lot in his very, very young career. And I have to say, it's really brilliant that he has Mikel Arteta beside him and behind him, supporting him. And it's really wonderful that he has had so many role models protecting him, I think, at the club. You think of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang when he first came in, Granit Xhaka a little bit, now players like Declan Rice, and peers of his own age, William Saliba, players like that, who he can turn to and maybe look for and support, but also he has become that player who people look to and try and find, not just on the pitch but off the pitch, as a role model, as a player who has helped Ethan Nwaneri, Miles Lewis-Skelly, maybe Max Dowman even a little bit as well, coming into the team and supporting them, helping them integrate, and all of these amazing, wonderful things. So I guess all that to say, and this was a big, big rant, but I wanted to take a moment to celebrate Bukayo Saka, because the records he's broken recently just bring up memories for me. They make me think about the journey that he's been on, the way he's developed as a player, some of the things he's had to overcome. And I just wanted to come on and, I guess, talk about all of that, but also say how lucky are we that we have an academy that produces players like this. We look at the moment at Miles Lewis-Skelly, Ethan Nwaneri, we look at Max Dowman and we think, God, this academy is working really, really well. But this is years on years of this. And Bukayo Saka is the jewel in the crown, of course. But we've had Emil Smith-Rowe, we've had Alex Iwobi, Reece Nelson. These are players who maybe haven't all made it at Arsenal, but we've either made a little bit of money off Eddie Nketiah, I should have mentioned him. We've either made a little bit of money off them and they've gone on to have really, really good careers, or they've gone on to have really, really good careers and we haven't done our job in selling them, making the value out of these players. Florian Balogun is one that springs to mind as well. Mika Biereth, although he didn't come all the way through the academy, we brought him in, developed him, and then made a bit of money on him. I think the academy, Hale End, Per Mertesacker deserves so much credit because we are churning out these players who are just a little bit under Bukayo Saka's level. And by the way, that is a great place to be. If you're just a little bit worse than Bukayo Saka, you're doing very, very well. And we are just so lucky to have that. Those players have made us a lot of money, but think about the amount that the players who are still with us have saved us. Miles Lewis-Skelly, Ethan Nwaneri, players of those qualities. If we had to go and, pick up a already developed 23, 24-year-old from Europe and around England, that's 60 million quid of players, just those two alone. A player with Max Dowman's potential is huge, huge money, and a player of Bukayo Saka's quality is 100 million plus. He is an absolutely wonderful player. So we are so lucky to have not only him, but all of the rest of the players that Hale End have produced. And this is about Bukayo Saka this episode, but we have to kind of think about those other guys as well and think about Hale End as a whole, because it's a really, really wonderful footballing machine right now, the Hale End Academy, and it is producing talent like on a conveyor belt really for us, and it's fantastic. And we are so, so lucky to have Hale End and to have Bukayo Saka, of course. I want to finish on this, this thought that I've had. And again, it's all about Bukayo Saka at the moment, because the records that he's broken, the places that he's got to in recent months, have really got me thinking about him over this international break. And I just want to talk you through Bukayo Saka's very high level stats over the last few seasons. And I guess this is for those people who talk about Bukayo Saka and say, he's not really world class. Or I'd rather have Cole Palmer in the England team. Or I'd rather have Cole Palmer in my club squad. And that's not picking on Cole Palmer, by the way. He's a top quality player. But just there are some wild things that are said out there in the kind of general football sphere. Listen to Bukayo Saka's goals and assists for the last 4 seasons. Last year, massive hamstring injury, massive injuries across the whole squad, still 16 goals and assists in the Premier League. The year before, the year we came so close to winning the Premier League, 25 goals and assists. The year before that, where we weren't expected to be anywhere near the Premier League conversation, 25 goals and assists in the Premier League. And the year before that, fighting for Champions League qualification, 18 goals and assists in the Premier League. Now, look, these are not Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo numbers, but got to remember that during that time, he was between 19 and 22 years old at the start of those seasons. You've also got to remember that people like Messi and Ronaldo have broken our brains. Those numbers for a right winger in a team that like to share out the goals, like to share the love, they are simply incredible. And I think that really, as well, it undersells everything that he does for the team in terms of being a basis for our attack, supporting the defence, being part of the build-up play, being part of the press. Everything that he does is a very, very high level. So that as a one big, massive ramble, just in reaction to Bukayo Saka being, breaking another record and reaching that huge milestone for Arsenal of 100 goals and assists in the Premier League and 200 Premier League appearances. All of that to say is how lucky are we as Arsenal fans that we get to watch this player week in, week out. And let's not forget, for all the new shiny toys that we've got, the 8 new signings that we have, the Ezes, the Gyökeres, we are so, so lucky to have Bukayo Saka at our club. I'm going to leave it there, guys. Apologies if this was a bit of a rambly one, but it was, I'm struggling with inspiration during the international break, and it's the thing I wanted to talk about, the thing I wanted to go through with you is Bukayo Saka's career and what he's done and where he's come from and how he has arrived at this player that we have today. If you've enjoyed this episode, which was a little bit different to be fair, make sure you go and hit follow wherever you get your podcasts from. Hopefully it won't feel too long until the Fulham game, which is the next game coming up, which I will be obviously previewing, instant reactioning to, and leaving a match review for you to listen to as well on any podcast platform, wherever you get them from. So make sure you hit follow so you don't miss any of that. Guys, I hope you survived the international break, and all that's left to say is thank you for following, thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.